Our marriage had always seemed picture perfect. At least, that was what I thought. Amelia, my wife of 18 years, was everything I could have asked for and more. She wasn't just my partner. She was my muse, my confidant. There was an effortless elegance about her that turned heads even in the most sophisticated of rooms. As a professor of literature at one of Paris's most prestigious universities, she carried herself with grace and intelligence. Wherever we went, she drew admiration. I felt proud standing beside her, believing that our bond was unbreakable. I had built a thriving business consulting firm, catering to Europe's elite. The long hours and constant travel meant my days were consumed by high-stakes negotiations and strategy meetings. But I always made time for Amelia, or at least, I thought I did. That evening, as we sat in the living room of our sprawling apartment overlooking the Seine, the soft glow of city lights reflecting off the river below, Amelia poured herself a glass of red wine. There was a calmness about her, one I had often associated with quiet evenings spent reading together or attending galas. I was at my desk, half listening as she casually swirled the wine in her glass. Then, without warning, she spoke. "Victor," she began, her tone as light and indifferent as if she were remarking on the weather, "there's something I've been meaning to tell you." I glanced up from my laptop, intrigued but not alarmed. "Go on," I said. She took another sip of wine, her eyes steady as they met mine. "I have a lover." I froze. The words were sharp, cutting through the quiet atmosphere like a knife. For a brief moment, I thought I must have misheard. Surely, she wasn't serious. "Excuse me?" I asked, my voice calm but strained. Her expression remained unbothered, even amused. "Don't be so old-fashioned," she said with a soft chuckle, leaning back in her chair. "All women over 40 have young lovers. I'm no exception. He's coming over tonight to meet you." I could feel my heart pounding against my chest. Disbelief, anger, and betrayal twisted together in a turbulent storm inside me. The Amelia I knew, the woman I had loved for nearly 2 decades, had just shattered our marriage with a single sentence. And yet, instead of shouting or breaking down, I forced myself to smile. "Of course, dear," I replied, matching her calmness with a facade of my own. "I'd be delighted to meet him." I stood and excused myself, leaving the room with measured steps. Once I was out of her sight, I headed straight to my study. The weight of her words echoed in my mind, but beneath the anger was something colder: control. I opened the safe in the corner of the room, retrieving the handgun I kept for emergencies. I turned the weapon over in my hand, feeling the cold steel press against my palm. I wasn't planning on using it, not yet, but holding it gave me a sense of reassurance. A reminder that if Amelia thought she could humiliate me in my own home, she was sorely mistaken. As I sat in the dimly lit study, gun resting on the desk beside me, I allowed myself to think back to the early years of our marriage. Those days felt like a distant memory now, but once, Amelia and I had been inseparable. We traveled the world, chased adventures, and built a life full of passion. I remembered how her laughter would fill every room, how we would stay up until dawn talking about everything and nothing. But somewhere along the way, something had shifted. I should have seen the signs. The late nights at the university, the cryptic text messages she never bothered to explain, the way she had grown distant even when we sat side by side. I told myself it was work, stress, the natural drift that came with time. I never once imagined she had been betraying me. Now, as the puzzle pieces came together, I realized how blind I had been. She hadn't just cheated. She had mocked me, reduced our marriage to something disposable, a plaything for her amusement. At precisely 9 p.m., the doorbell rang. From the shadows of the study, I watched Amelia step into the hallway. She had changed into an elegant black dress, one I hadn't seen her wear in years. Her excitement was unmistakable. She practically glided to the door, her cheeks flushed like a schoolgirl preparing for a first date. I tightened my grip on the gun, staying seated but alert. The weight of it in my hand was grounding, a silent reminder that I wasn't powerless. She opened the door, and as the faint sound of footsteps entered our home, I remained hidden. Amelia's soft laughter echoed faintly, blending with the quiet hum of Paris outside. I could have stepped out then. I could have ended it all in a single heartbeat. But instead, I waited, let the evening unfold. In the dimly lit room, a man who appeared to be no older than 25 stepped inside with an air of self-assured elegance. Tall and undeniably handsome, he brimmed with a confidence that seemed to envelop him like a well-tailored suit. As he entered, he greeted Amelia with a kiss on her cheek, a gesture that spoke of familiarity, as if he were a permanent fixture in her life. "Victor," Amelia called out, her voice carrying a playful edge that suggested amusement, though perhaps tinged with something else. "Come meet Julian." Emerging from the shadows, I forced a polite smile and extended my hand towards the newcomer. "Julian, is it? Welcome." Julian met my gaze with a look that was both arrogant and curious, as if assessing a worthy opponent. "You must be Victor," he said, his voice smooth. "Amelia has told me so much about you." I nodded, maintaining my smile with unwavering composure. "All good things, I hope." We settled at the dinner table, where Amelia had laid out a lavish spread. She moved with a grace that suggested everything was perfectly in order, pouring wine and engaging in light-hearted conversation. Julian, emboldened by her nonchalant demeanor, smirked at me from across the table. "You're a lucky man, Victor," he remarked, raising his glass. "Amelia is an incredible woman." "She certainly is," I replied, my voice calm yet carrying an undercurrent as cold as ice. "Though luck has little to do with it. A marriage, after all, is built on trust." For a fleeting moment, Amelia's smile wavered, but she quickly regained her composure. "Trust, yes," she echoed, though her eyes avoided mine, betraying a flicker of unease. I leaned forward, fixing Julian with a stare that could pierce through any facade. "Tell me, Julian, what do you do?" He hesitated, clearly caught off guard by the directness of my question. "I'm in between jobs at the moment." "Ah," I said, letting the sarcasm seep into my voice. "How fortunate for you to have Amelia's support." The tension in the room grew almost palpable, a heavy cloud that seemed to press down on us. Amelia shifted uncomfortably, sensing the storm brewing beneath the surface. But I was far from finished. As dessert was served, a beautifully crafted creme brulee prepared with Amelia's usual flair, I knew the time had come to reveal my hand. My fingers hovered over my phone, the button already set to project my collection of evidence onto the living room television. Julian was in the midst of boasting about his plans to start a business when I cut him off. "Julian, you strike me as a man who values honesty. Would you say that's true?" Blinking in surprise, he struggled to maintain his composure. Sure. Honesty is important." I smiled, though it was more a baring of teeth than an expression of warmth. "Good, because I believe in transparency as well." With that, I pressed the button, and the room was suddenly bathed in the glow of the television screen. The first image appeared, Julian and Amelia, arm in arm, standing outside a boutique hotel. The second followed swiftly, a grainy security camera photo capturing them entering the same hotel late at night. The final blow was a video, a damning compilation of text exchanges between the two, projected large and clear, undeniable in its implications. "Is this transparent enough for you?" I asked, my voice calm but laced with venom. Color drained from Julian's face as he stammered. What is this?" Amelia's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor, the sound echoing the breaking of illusions. "Victor, you've been spying on me?" Amelia's voice trembled, a mixture of shock and indignation. I turned to her, my expression unreadable as I replied, "Spying? No, Amelia, I've been uncovering the truth, something you seem to have a problem with." The silence that followed was suffocating, as if the very air had been sucked from the room. Julian's earlier bravado had evapor. I stood in the office, the tension palpable. Like a fish out of water, I didn't know, I confessed, my voice heavy with realization. Julian, oblivious to the true depth of his deception, looked confused. He didn't know what. I snapped, anger flaring within me. That he's a con artist. That he's been using you as much as you've been using me. Don't pretend you're innocent, Amelia, I growled, leaning closer to Julian. The authorities already had enough evidence. Julian's accounts would be frozen by morning, marking the end of his lavish lifestyle. In a panic, Julian bolted for the door, but I blocked his path. One more thing, I said, my voice like ice. If you ever come near me or anyone I care about again, I won't stop at exposing you. Julian's bravado shattered, leaving Amelia to face the aftermath alone. In the days following Julian's departure, emotions ran high, and legal maneuvers were set in motion. Amelia attempted to salvage her dignity, but the truth was too overwhelming. Within a week, she was served divorce papers, and I ensured the settlement reflected her betrayal. Victor, please, she begged during our final meeting at the lawyer's office. We can fix this. It was a mistake, a lapse in judgment. I stared at Amelia, the woman I once loved, now a stranger. A lapse in judgment is forgetting to lock the door, Amelia. What you did was deliberate. Her tears failed to move me. She signed the papers, and our marriage was reduced to a stack of legal documents and a bitter memory. I spent the following weeks erasing her presence from my life, boxing up and discarding everything that reminded me of her. The apartment, once a home, now felt hollow, but with each passing day, I felt lighter and freer. As months passed, I immersed myself in work, taking on challenging projects. My firm landed a significant contract to design a luxury resort in the south of France, and the long hours kept me focused. However, life isn't solely about work. One evening, my friend Victor convinced me to attend an art exhibit in Montmartre. You need to live a little, my friend, he said. The world is full of beauty. Don't let one betrayal blind you to it. At the exhibit, I met Isabel, an artist whose work spoke of resilience and rebirth. Her pieces were raw and emotive, capturing the essence of the human spirit. We struck up a conversation about her inspiration, and before long, the gallery was closing, yet we were still engrossed in discussion. Isabel was unlike Amelia. She was warm, genuine, and unpretentious. Over the weeks that followed, Isabel and I grew closer. We shared dinners, walked along the Seine, and had endless conversations about life, art, and the things that truly mattered. For the first time in years, I felt a spark of happiness and a sense that my life was no longer defined by betrayal but by possibility. On the anniversary of the night that changed everything, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, the lights of Paris stretching out before me. A soft breeze carried the scent of spring, a reminder that life always finds a way to renew itself. Isabel joined me, wrapping her arms around my waist. You seem deep in thought, she said softly. Just reflecting, I replied. It's strange, isn't it? How the worst moments in life can lead to the best. Isabel smiled, her eyes full of understanding. Sometimes you have to let go of what's broken to make room for something whole. I raised my glass, the wine catching the light like a promise. To new beginnings, I said. To new beginnings, Isabel echoed. As I stood there, I realized that Amelia's betrayal had been a gift in disguise. It had shattered the illusion of a perfect life, forcing me to confront the truth and rebuild from the ground up. In doing so, I had found something far greater than what I had lost. The city lights sparkled like stars, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. Life had tested me, but I had emerged stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever lay ahead. Thank you for being a part of this story with me. If it moved you, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to Lauren's Story. Many of you who enjoy these stories aren't subscribed yet. By subscribing, you're not just following a channel. You're becoming part of a community that values deep, meaningful storytelling. Let's continue exploring these heartfelt journeys together. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you won't miss our next story.